Welcome back to another GT Homes exclusive. One of the questions we often hear is, what is a tenancy agreement and how can you terminate it? Great question. A tenancy agreement, commonly known as a lease, is a contract between a landlord and tenant where the tenant agrees to pay rent to live in a unit. A tenancy agreement will also include other obligations and rules relating to the tenancy. As a landlord, it is important to note that there are two kinds of tenancy agreements. The first is a fixed term agreement. This is when the landlord and tenant agree that the tenancy will last for a specific time. This is because both the start and end dates are set out in the agreement. Most leases are for a fixed term and usually last for a year. The second agreement is known as a month-to-month. When the lease runs out, it is often renewed automatically on a month-to-month basis or week-to-week basis. This means the landlord and tenant do not have to sign a new fixed term lease when the term of the lease expires. Landlords and tenants can decide to renew the agreement for another fixed term or enter into a new lease. For example, after the first 12-month period ends, they can agree to a second 12-month fixed term. However, this is not required under the Residential Tenancies Act. All the rules of the former lease will still apply to the landlord and tenant. So, how can you terminate a tenancy? Under the Residential Tenancies Act, a tenancy does not end when a fixed-term tenancy agreement expires. Landlords have to abide by security of tenancy. This means tenants can continue to occupy the unit unless one of the following occurs. 1. If the tenant decides to leave and gives the landlord proper notice or assigns their tenancy to another person. 2. The landlord and tenant both agree to terminate the tenancy. 3. The landlord gives notice to terminate the tenancy for a reason allowed by the Act. A landlord and tenant can agree to end the tenancy at any given time, even during the lease term. Although you can make an oral agreement, the best way to go about ending the tenancy is to have a written agreement signed by all parties included. The Landlord and Tenant Board has an agreement to terminate a tenancy form the landlords and tenants can use. However, a landlord cannot make a tenant sign an agreement to end the tenancy. This cannot be done during the lease term nor at the beginning of the lease to end at a later date. There are other procedures in place when it comes to terminating a tenancy. Landlords should know that if they provide a tenant with a notice to end the tenancy, the tenant does not have to move out immediately. A more complicated process is required first, where the landlord must apply to the Landlord and Tenant Board for an order allowing the tenant's eviction. During this time, the tenant has the right to attend a hearing to explain why they should not be evicted. Then it is up to the board to issue an eviction notice if they see fit. As mentioned, the landlord can end a tenancy for reasons allowed in the Act. There are certain circumstances when the Act allows a landlord to give tenant notice to end the tenancy early. These include if the tenant, the tenant's guest, or someone else who lives in the unit does not comply with the rules and regulations. This can be called ending a tenancy for cause. Some examples for cause include not paying the rent in full, causing damage to the rental property, disturbing other tenants or the landlord, illegal activity in the unit or condominium. There are other reasons for ending a tenancy that are unrelated to what the tenant has done or has not done. These are sometimes called no-fault reasons for ending a tenancy. Some examples include the landlord plans to do major repairs or renovations that require a building permit and the work cannot be done unless the rental unit is empty. The landlord, a member of the landlord's immediate family, or their caregiver wish to move into the unit, and the landlord has agreed to sell the property and the purchaser. Before you choose to lease your condo unit, reviewing tenancy agreements and how to terminate a tenancy is essential to see if renting your unit is an option right for you. Our team of Platinum agents are here to help you with any questions you may have about leasing your unit. This has been another GT Homes exclusive. Remember to subscribe and to visit us at gta-homes.com.